Okay, so welcome officially, everyone, to the session. Some really good sharing and some good work we did there. Well done to Jackie and Yad for getting their positive feedback and higher purpose. So we're going to have a look now at today's email. There's a quote and a bit of teaching related to that, and then they'll take us into today's workbook lesson, which is lesson 31 we're on to. So without further ado, let's dive into it, shall we? Okay, can everyone see that?
Yeah.
So who would like to read the quote?
I will. Don't play the victim to the circumstances you created.
Unknown, but it's really on point. So it's a lovely, very short, pithy statement of truth. Don't play the victim to circumstances you created. So it highlights the core delusion of anyone that believes they are a victim of the world. They believe that the circumstances they created are causing them to suffer.
So
and have chosen to forget the truth.
So you become the persecutor and the victim at the same time.
Yeah. We're victimizing ourselves, but we don't realize it. The illusion is that someone else is doing it to you. But the truth is that actually you're doing it to yourself. So we've chosen to forget the truth that they themselves created these circumstances, albeit on a subconscious level. So it's not done consciously. No one says, right, today I'm going to get up and victimize myself. But it's a subconscious program. If we feel like we're unworthy, we feel lack of love, then we feel like we deserve to be treated that way. We deserve to be unfairly treated. And there's the victim identity that then plays itself out over and over. And we get that kind of treatment from people. But we've in fact created those circumstances through the belief that we believe in on a subconscious level.
You can even become your own rescuer, can't you? You rescue yourself with eating chocolate or buying something or, some outward. So you're going around that drama triangle.
Yeah.
All by yourself.
You can. Normally, you involve other people in it because that's what generally happens in this world. So every victim needs a persecutor to be a victim. So usually that's what then they bring into their experience. And then sometimes a rescuer to rescue. Because it's all a projection of the mind. The mind creates the circumstances that suit the mind's purpose. And you see how that works in your own life and other people's lives, that people who do have a victim identity will have circumstances that reflect that. And you say, well, they're a victim because of their circumstances. No, their circumstances happen because they're a victim. You see, it's the belief that comes first. And then, of course, the circumstances feed back into the victimhood and tell the person that, yeah, this is true. You are a victim because, look, the circumstances reflect that. So I'll look at the integral model just to remind you. There's the internal, what's happening in the I, the subjective. Someone believes they're a victim. have a whole set of thoughts and emotions, beliefs, and sensations, body perceptions, all tied into that. And then that is going to reflect in the external. So it reflects in their body, it reflects in how they speak, what they say, what they do, the kind of outcomes they experience in their life, the experiences they have, which then feeds back, creates a pattern of behavior that then feeds back into the belief that created it. So victims will create patterns of victim type behavior where they're victimized, they're unfairly treated, abused, and then that feeds back into the subjective I, and they say, well, I must be correct then. I must be a victim because look, I keep getting unfairly treated. So it's a setup. Can you see how ingenious the ego is, that it set us up for this? A game of projection and perception to set us up for upset. So remember, every upset is really a setup. So useful rephrasing. Whenever I'm upset, I've been set up to be upset. Because then it makes you wonder, well, what set me up? Well, we know what sets you up, the ego, for a fall. Okay, so let's playing the victim of external circumstances projected by your mind is the lowest self-concept you can have and the height of self-deception. Because you've completely deceived yourself. You're saying, it's been done to me, when actually you're doing it to yourself. So you've had to deny your true identity as omnipotent and omniscient love, infinite eternal love, and believe in this crazy game of self-deception, which takes you to the lowest self-concept that you can go. The Son of God, infinite eternal love that is unlimited, has now limited himself, herself, to the body, and to this worse than just the body. It's to an identity that is very very much enslaved in the body. Victim identity and the body go hand in hand. So that identity, the victim identity, is the lowest self-concept possible. At the extreme of that, you don't even feel like you deserve to live. And so, death would be a welcome release from the victimhood. But if you haven't corrected your mind, that's not going to work. It'll just come back. Karma will bring you back, and you'll have to experience the same pattern again in a different life. So all of this, to be the victim, you must have denied your true self. You must believe you're an individual self. You must believe in guilt and sin. And you try and project that guilt out onto others. You blame them. So the victim, and you see how the victim identity allows you to do that. Well, I'm not to blame. Someone else is to blame. It's a classic identity that allows you to project guilt all the time and not take the responsibility. Ever say, I've done it, because you can just blame others. And that becomes a self-perpetuating system until you interrupt its pattern with this kind of teaching. Say, no, listen, none of this is correct. So today's quote and workbook lesson are really a double call by the Holy Spirit to wake up to true power as a son of God, or extension of perfect love. And the quote's all about letting go of victimhood. So this is exactly why you need to get really clear about your higher purpose, because it's the most effective antidote to the victim identity of the ego. If you're the hero on the hero's journey, your purpose is awakening, and you have this mission, this purpose to express love in the world. There's no room to be a victim. Victims don't go and change the world with world-changing information. So you might want to listen to that bonus discussion. A guy called Phil, who's is a Paralympic archer. He's gone to the Olympics. South Africa. We talked about how to find your higher purpose. We talked about staying in flow in his archery, related to Zen archery. So it was an interesting conversation, if I recall. So there it is for you to listen to if you want. And that can help you polish up exercise 9 as well. So just some housekeeping. I'd suggest finishing exercises 8 and 9 using the feedback you got today, or on the weekend when we've done them. So go and look at 8 and 9, read what you've written in exercises 5, 7, and 8 already to help you do that, to formulate your blueprint for your values. Values blueprint can be very helpful to look at exercise 7, what you wrote, and exercise 8 as well. So your higher purpose is to follow the path that helps you to overcome these weaknesses and heal your pain by letting it go, the quickest way possible for you. So it's often inspired, our higher purpose in life is often inspired by our most traumatic or difficult experiences. So a good example of this principle in action is how Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, we all have heard of them, know about them. Maybe some of you had personal experience with them, I don't know. They're an organization set up to help alcoholics to overcome alcoholism and stay sober. And they've been quite successful, remarkably successful. So before 1935, nothing like this existed. All these alcoholics, and no one really had an answer as to why they were alcoholics or what to do about it. So this guy named Bill Wilson, who was a recovering alcoholic, was really tempted to have a drink. He just had a failed proxy fight, so things hadn't gone well. I think he was in a hotel. Every hotel's got a bar, and he was very tempted to just go in the bar. And his ego was saying, "Well, just have one." But he knew one would have been, that's it. He's back on the drink. Was the alcoholics can't stop at one. So that would have been it. He would have got blind drunk and probably ended up in hospital again, passing out in the bar. So he decided that the best way out of this temptation was to immediately go look for another alcoholic to help, to teach this what he'd learned. So he rushes off to the hospital and he says, "Have you got anyone who's in here for alcohol poisoning?" And they say, "Yeah, I actually do. This guy came in last night. A surgeon, alcoholic surgeon, be admitted for alcohol poisoning after another binge of drinking." And so he spent time talking to him about his theory that alcoholism was a disease rather than a sin or a result of being weak-willed. Told him how he'd become sober with the help of a Christian revivalist group to help Bob make the decision to sober himself up. So he was teaching himself, reminding himself his decision to be sober by helping someone else to make the same decision. So as you teach, so you learn. It's a classic example of that principle in action. So he was helping himself by helping another, but this act of love for himself and another person led to the two men founding Alcoholics Anonymous as an organization that's now a global organization. It's in many, many countries. It's helped millions of alcoholics worldwide to overcome their addiction, and many more millions of families who are affected by that addiction to find a happier, more harmonious life. So so helping other alcoholics is one of the steps in AA's 12-step program. So they say, once you've gone on this path of recovery, the way you stay there is you keep teaching it, because then you keep teaching yourself, no, I'm not an alcoholic. This is what I do now. Whereas if you don't, it's easy to slip back. So they've tapped into this idea that the best way of learning is to teach. And they only allow people who've been alcoholics to teach, because then there's the credibility. The alcoholics go, well, yes, I can listen to you and pay attention to you because you've walked the same road as I have. If a non-alcoholic comes in and gives them something, they likely say, well, it's easy for you. You've never been alcoholic. You don't know what it's like. So, the people have walked the talk, who are the teachers. So Yeshua says, the purpose of the course might be said to provide you with a means of choosing what you want to teach on the basis of what you want to learn, which is quite profound. So you choose what you want to teach. That's all part of the higher purpose that we've just experienced. And it will play out for different people in different ways. So some may be more formal teaching, some with words, some with images, language, many ways that you can do it. So the AA program is just another form of the universal curriculum. That is the hero's journey back to God, or the pure formless awareness of just the hero's journey back to God, or the pure formless awareness of perfect love. And well, you might want to read the section of the Manual for Teachers, the development of trust, which we looked at the other day, is to remind yourself of what Yeshua's version of the hero's journey is. There's six stages, 6 phases to go through in this development of trust, which is really the path of awakening, the journey of awakening, or the hero's journey. 4 of which are difficult. So read that. There's a period of undoing, a period of sorting out, then followed by a period of relinquishment, then finally a period of settling down where you find reasonable peace. And then there's reasonable peace, and then there's a period of settling down, a period of unsettling, and then a period of unsettling, often settling down, and a period of achievement. So 4 of those stages are difficult. It's saying it's not an easy journey, is acknowledging that, but giving us an outline of how it works. Okay, so so ask yourself what you can do that will stretch you to really love the values that drive the behaviors you wrote down. Being something you'd like to do and experience. So ask yourself what you can really do to stretch yourself if you need to get any more inspiration for your blueprint. What you can do that will stretch you to really love the values. I think we've all got your higher purpose. So can you see how your higher purpose really will make you love the values? You have to really call on your essence, identity, and those values to live it out. So it doesn't necessarily mean you stop doing what you're currently doing on the level of form. Maybe just that you do it differently, inspired by your higher purpose, with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, rather than being motivated by the ego's lower order concerns like fear, desire for more money, status, pleasure, and so on. So there's a higher purpose revelation meditation, which you can download, you can listen to. I'll also share a little story of how I got miraculous guidance to follow my higher purpose, end of the meditation, which you might find quite interesting and inspiring. So listen beyond the meditation's 15 minutes, and then there's a 7 minutes of the story, which is a miracle story. Some coins just appeared in my pocket out of nowhere. And, really, it was designed to show me to show me that I was on track, that this purpose that I'd intuited was actually was correct, and that I needed to follow it. Okay, so nothing comes to mind after doing the meditation. If you still need further clarity, don't be discouraged. Sometimes inspiration takes a bit of time to reveal itself. So the key thing is just let go of the need for an immediate outcome. And then just looking ahead to Sunday, we'll be closing out the course with doing exercise 10, which is a group exercise. You're going to do it with your buddy during Sunday's final session. That will help you to clarify your higher purpose more. And we'll do a holotropic breathing session. So it's a very nice way to end this 6-week process. So there's a recorded discussion there. Listen to from a previous year, integral relationship in the hero's journey of special function. Dive into that if you're interested. There's the podcast of it, which you can download. So you can do it while you're driving or walking. So I can recommend doing that. And then I just gave a bonus interview on partner Anita Majani, bonus video. I think I just seen this video. It quite inspired me, so I put it in. So it's a clip from an interview with Anita Majani. You all know about her. So she had a profound near-death experience where she went into the light. She'd had terminal cancer. The organs were shutting down. Doctors were saying, say goodbye. She's out of here. She went into the light. Went into a coma and had this experience for like 30 hours in the light, where she saw her father, she saw a friend who died of cancer 3 years earlier, and she clearly saw the reason for her cancer. It was shown to her that it was her own thinking that had created her own negative thoughts and emotions. So she realized that experientially from what was seen to her, what was shown to her. But she chose to let it go. Father advised her to go back because she didn't want to go back. And the deal was, well, I go back, then my body needs to heal. So there's no point coming back into a terminally ill body that's about to die. Then miraculously she did. Within, I think they said 5 days, her tumors had shrunk by something like 70%. And then, it took about 5 weeks to clear it all up. Within 5 weeks, all the cancer had gone out of her body. She was completely in remission. Okay, so in this clip, she shares how she receives guidance from her spiritual guides to let go, step out of the way to miraculously resolve apparent problems. So she came back in and experiencing some time-space problems as we do, and was then called to, she still had lessons to call on the miracle by letting go and resolving these apparent problems, such as getting a visa to remain in the US. Or I resonate with that one because I had my own challenges just getting and staying to the UK. And a book, lucrative new book, and a movie deal that would never have come if she tried to hold on to existing publishers and movie contracts. So she needs to let the old go and place it with the new. So that should be, it's an inspiring interview. Really all about letting go from someone who did that on a very high level. Okay, so any comments, questions about any of that teaching? Otherwise, we're going to have a look at the lesson for today.
I was just going to say, oh, hang on.
Mhm.
I found that really inspiring, actually, Jono, and linked to what you said earlier about using the divorce as a subject to work around. I can see that differently now. I can see how using divorce as a way of leading people into forgiveness and recognizing how they're creating these situations could work, and perhaps website links to various things, and also incorporating some of the healing techniques that I've learned. So yeah, so that's really cool, really inspiring. Thank you.
Good. Well, it's a catalyst, you see. So the thing is, we've all got to have some kind of unique selling point or differentiator, because there's many people doing healing and stuff. So what makes you different? Why would people listen to you and give their time and energy and attention and money potentially to you rather than someone else? Well, you have to have a message that resonates with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, anything. I mean, you're familiar with marketing principles. You can't be all things to everyone. You have to find your niche and focus on really serving that niche well. So the divorce thing is a niche. You have the experience, you have the credibility because you've been through it, and it's a starting point. It's not that you're going to dwell on the divorce. It's a starting point, people's hero's journey. So well, you're in the pain of a divorce, in the midst of it, or in the aftermath of it, and you're struggling mentally and emotionally. I'll help you. I'll meet you where you are because I understand where you are. I've been there, but I'll help you move from that to a place where you've healed from it. You've let it go.
Yeah.
And then you've got the audience. Their pain point is what will attract them to you. Otherwise, it's very general. I'm sharing general information. Well, okay, what makes that different from any other? I mean, there's plenty of people doing that. There's tons of websites. There's so much information. It's the value proposition you create around that information that's key. If you can do that, then you'll build a tribe. You won't just be sharing information. You'll build a community of like-minded people around the central. It's a starting point. The point is, you're not trying to get them stuck in their divorce. You want to move them away, move them out of that.
Yeah.
And then so your point of greatest pain and trauma is also your point of focus and your higher purpose, and that's the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation of the whole situation. Because without the experience, of that very painful divorce, you wouldn't be able to then talk to them. Like the alcoholic can't if you hadn't been an alcoholic, you couldn't help other alcoholics. You had to go through that journey in order to be of service to that particular community. So I encourage you to really explore it, and if you do it right, you won't get stuck in it. It'll just be like, okay, that's the backstory. We all need a backstory. People have to resonate with us on some level to come to us. Why you as opposed to someone else? Well, because you've got a backstory. This is your, But then, where do you take them from where? That's the very interesting part of it. If you've got their attention, how can you move them on a journey, and how can you design that hero's journey for them? So you take them through a process of healing and transformation, which they couldn't do on their own because they're stuck in their victimhood and in the misperceptions of it. But you can. You've been on that journey yourself, and I would say that's a pretty inspiring purpose. You can create a system that does that.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to work on the higher purpose and just tweak it a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Sorry, I shouldn't say that.
All right. Very good. Very good. Yay.
No more.
No more.
I'm never going to say very good again, except it's now so ingrained in my brain. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, pleasure. So that leads us into today's lesson. So let's have a look at the lesson. Do you want to read that, Jackie, in the first paragraph for us, kindly?
Okay, I'm not the victim of the world I see. Today's idea is the introduction to your declaration of release. Again, the idea should be applied to both the world you see without and the world you see within. In applying the idea, we will use a form of practice which will be used more and more, with changes as indicated. Generally speaking, the form includes two aspects, one in which you apply the idea on a more sustained basis, and the other consisting of frequent application of the idea throughout the day.
Okay, so then he's asking us to do this on the inner world as well as the outer world. The world you see without, the world you see within. So the outer worlds, world of form, objects, people, places, situations. We're very familiar with that. Inner world, maybe not so familiar with. That's the world of our thoughts, ideas, emotions, sense perceptions. And this is very well explained in the model, which would be here. So this is exactly what Ken Wilber saw. You have this interior world, which is intangible. You can't see it, feel it, touch it, taste it, but measure it. Really, very difficult to measure. But it does have tangible effects, because these thoughts, emotions, memories, states of mind, perceptions, sensations all express into the objective world. And they create the reality, seemingly, of the objective world on the external level, which then feeds back into the subjective eye and says, yes, well, this is correct. This is how reality is, because look at, here's the outcome on the level of form. So it becomes a prison. This is a mechanism of ongoing enslavement for the ego, but for the spirit, this is the mechanism of freedom, because you can change your mind, you can go to your authentic self, you can experience, the truth of who you are, true peace, love, joy, so higher states of being rather than just emotions, and then that can manifest into the objective world. The material body, the things you do, the behaviors, the outcomes you get, then are inspired by that subjective self. You get different results that feeds back and says, okay, that you're on the right track here. And so now it becomes a way of freeing your mind. And that's the reinterpretation we've been trained to do. Instead of outside in, I'm a victim of the world, which is outside of me, and I don't really acknowledge my internal reality very much. Instead of that, we turn it around saying, no, the I subjective is all change that, change your mind here, and then the objective will change. The behaviors and former outcomes will change, because it all changes based on the I. Right? The I is causative, it's the mind. And whatever happens in the illusion is not true. In the exterior reality is not true. Okay, so we'll run a summary of the integral model. Let's go back to our lesson. So what's he saying? Image of the outer world, objects, people, situations, sounds, and sights. We see all of this from the perspective of an image, a self-image that is not real, a weak, sick, vulnerable self-image. So in truth, the inner world and the outer world are both within. So then he says, do you want to read that, Jackie? The inner world and outer world are both within. And then the bit on the right.
The bit on the left as well. Okay.
Yeah.
The inner world and outer world are both within, composed of thought, and both without, outside your nature. The inner world and outer world are both within, composed of thought, and both without, outside your nature. Okay. In the past, our thinking invented the world. We wanted to be special. In the present, we only see the world we invented because we still want it as punishment.
Does that resonate?
Yeah.
We see the world we invented because we still want what we invented. That's why we're attached to the past, because it punishes us and others.
So we're still choosing punishment, and that goes back to the original separation, way before we were. Right. Okay. So it's that existential.
Yeah, because of the existential guilt. You know, we think we've really separated. We've really pulled off the impossible, and now we're just fundamentally guilty. The ego believes to our core, you're guilty. You know, you don't actually deserve to exist.
Right.
Unworthy of existence. And
nothing to do with what we created in this lifetime. We came in with that belief, and it's been developed over many lifetimes.
Yeah, it will be, but it's still, there's nothing to do. No, it's the foundation of your thought system. This deep-seated belief in separation. So Yeshua's asking us to really go deep, to cut through all of these layers, these defenses of guilt and sin and fear and attack. It's all just layers of the onion, which you've got to cut through. And just like when an onion, you cut through and then there's tears, because that's the releasing. To ultimately undo every scrap, every fragment of this belief in separation. And that's the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation of the ego's dream. Okay, so we want it to be special. We want it to be unique. There's the separate self, identity, self-identity named. We wanted all of that. And we weren't prepared for the guilt and the sin that come. And those are overwhelmingly awful. So the mind then has to project outside of itself and say, well, I can project that onto someone or something else. And it's invented an external world to allow it to do that. Okay, so happy with that teaching, the diagram?
Yep, all good.
Okay, so next, 2 longer practice periods. Who wants to read that?
I will. I haven't read for ages. Excuse me. 2 longer periods of practice with the idea today I needed, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. 3 to 5 minutes for each of these are recommended. During that time, look about you slowly while repeating the idea 2 or 3 times. Close your eyes and apply the same idea to your inner world. You'll escape from both together, for the inner is the cause of the outer.
Okay, any thoughts on that? And we're looking at classic integral model, talking about the interior aspect, interior quadrants, reality, so the inner world, thoughts, emotions, perceptions, and then the outer, which is the manifest form. You're saying, well, the one causes the other. The mind creates the reality in the seemingly external. Okay, any other thoughts on that?
I think the idea that we have to practice this so often just shows how it's not that easy.
Yeah. Requires, continuous vigilance. He says at some point in the text, it takes willingness and great effort to do this, abundant willingness. Because you're deconstructing your self-concept. That's not a trivial exercise. To let go of self-concept is the hardest thing. That's why enlightenment is not for the masses. Generally, it's one by one. People go and they do the kind of deep spiritual work, exploration we're doing, and then they come to the awareness. And they've gone beyond churches and temples and anything like that. It's just connecting directly with their source within their own mind. Okay, so questions on number 2? No. So number 3, as you survey your inner world,
Should I continue then?
yeah.
Okay, as you survey your inner world, you merely let whatever thoughts cross your mind come into your awareness, each to be considered for a moment and then replaced by the next. Try not to establish any kind of hierarchy among them. Watch them come and go as dispassionately as possible. Do not dwell on any one in particular, but try to let the stream move on evenly and calmly, without any special investment on your part. As you sit and quietly watch your thoughts, repeat today's idea to yourself as often as you care to, but with no sense of hurry.
All right, so just giving us some instructions, very simple exercises, but don't mistake simplicity for ineffectiveness. I think part of us thinks, well, how can it be so simple? It's just, very simple. Anyone can do them. Okay, so then the slide, I'm doing this to myself.
I'm doing this to myself. Everything that happened came out of my mind, no matter how independent from me it may have seemed. The images weren't real, and therefore I don't need to react to them emotionally.
Well, if the images weren't real, then why am I even reacting to them at all?
It's very easy to sort of spiritually bypass this, isn't it? If you just, like, for me, I've had that intellectual understanding, and through the last 6 weeks, I've kind of come to more of a emotional understanding as well now, worked through some of the layers, and can see how I created all these dramas that I thought were happening to me. I can see now in a way that I couldn't before how I've created them. But it's like kind of just reading that and doing the exercise feels quite lovely and peaceful to be doing it. But it's easy to kind of just go, oh, well, that's not real. I don't need to take part in any of it. But I guess if you are meant to be learning something from it, or it's supposed to, is part of your unfoldment, it will keep happening, won't it?
Yeah.
Whatever it is will just keep happening so that until you finally get the message.
Yeah, that's how it works. You can't not learn your lesson. Eventually, you must surrender to it. So you don't spiritually bypass the idea of the image is not real. You can apply once you've gone in and you've really experienced that, whatever the thoughts and emotions. Okay, so I give myself permission to feel it briefly. Let me go in. I'm not shying away from it. I'm not denying it. So there it is. Because in that feeling, there's a catharsis. Okay, so next one, let's ask someone else to read just the final couple of lines there. And the next paragraph of the lesson.
I'll read. Where are we?
Okay. This means that I'm dreaming.
God, this means that I am dreaming. That outer attack on me as a reflection of my own unforgiveness against myself. If I can accept this message, I can cease to react to the attacking dream figures, and I can forgive the brothers who seem to be carrying out those attacks. I caused the dream of my life. In doing so, I caused nothing.
Does that make any sense?
Yes. The unforgiveness against myself. Yeah.
But I caused nothing. So I caused the dream of my life, but actually in truth, I caused nothing because the dream isn't true.
Yeah.
I'm
I
the
read
cause
the
of
words.
nothing. It's like, I'm not guilty. Like, how can I be guilty if I really did nothing?
Yeah. I read it. I think I get it on an intellectual basis, but it doesn't always sink in.
Yeah. So, you know, the journey of awakening is to start learning this. So more and more, this becomes just a default realization. I cause nothing. I'm just in a dream.
I get the dream and I see that I've created all of this. But there's still something there that stops me from knowing that it all means nothing.
Yeah, and that's your ego. That's it's holding on to the separate identity and belief in separation in the world desperately as a defense, because this will undo it. If you cause nothing, then nothing's really happened. Your life has no meaning in and of itself. For the ego, that's terrifying and fearful and get afraid and various things like that. But to the spirit, it's liberating. The spirit just says,
just do it. Yeah,
just do it and trust.
Yeah.
And this is your way out. But you see, by practicing forgiveness as he's teaching, this letting go methodology, you're going to have to learn this teaching. So you don't just know the truth. You do, but you've forgotten it. But the forgiveness is how you learn this. So as you get the tests and the challenges and they come up and you need to let them go, then you are practicing the learning of this. So forgiveness isn't really required in heaven because it's not necessary, but in separation, it's the one thing you can do that isn't going to create more separation. It's the one thing you can do that's going to free your mind. Okay, so number 4, do you want to read that one for us, Sue? In addition,
repeat the idea for today as often as possible during the day. Remind yourself that you are making a declaration of independence in the name of your own freedom. And in your freedom lies the freedom of the world.
Yeah, so it's saying you're free of being a victim, you're claiming it again, and your freedom is the freedom of the world, because if everyone followed your example, then every mind would free itself.
Mhm.
And would join the at-one-ment. Okay, any comments, questions on number 4 or any of these slides? So then just number 5. I would like to read number 5.
Shall I just finish it?
Okay.
The idea for today is also a particularly useful one to use as a response to any form of temptation that may arise. It is a declaration that you will not yield to it and put yourself in bondage. Mhm.
Okay, so any temptation, beware the temptation to be unfairly treated. That's a great temptation of the ego. So that comes in. Great idea to remind yourself that actually none of that's true. None of the theory is ultimately true. All the illusion is false, and you just practice that. So as you get tempted, you practice, and you're teaching yourself in practice that this belief is true. You see how this works. So that's why practice is required. The systematic, progressive undoing of your ego's thought system that he's helping you to undertake with this course. Okay. So any other comments, questions, thoughts on that? Shall we and there's just the do not call for martyrs but for teachers. So maybe someone else, Aurelie or Elaine, read that slide if you can for us.
Yeah, I can. I do not call for martyrs, but for teachers. Martyr, a person who voluntarily suffers, a victim. Not being a victim, in other words, means feeling emotionally free of the tyranny of outer circumstances. The point here seems to be that while others can verbally attack you or verbally assault you, you cannot actually cause you to feel annoyed, bothered, or troubled, or enforce a sense of persecution. You therefore cannot be persecuted. And when you realize this, no assault will be able to arouse any negative emotion in you whatsoever. 3 ways of emulating. Jesus is our role model. Belief, to believe with him that there is no justification for anger. Perception, to perceive ourselves as unable to be persecuted, just like he did. Teaching, to teach our own perfect immunity, just like he taught his.
So he's the way shower. He's saying to us, you become like I was. I showed the way. I demonstrated this thought system of the Holy Spirit so clearly that it's recorded in history, and now you have this great teaching that I've given you to really learn this. There's no excuse. You can be as I was. And that's the message of the crucifixion, that actually there is no justification for anger. Doesn't matter what anyone does, you can still find peace. Choose to forgive them. Okay. So any other thoughts, comments, questions on this lesson? It's a pretty straightforward lesson, but very powerful. So it can help you to collapse your victim identity, which is pretty transformational. Okay, so shall we do a meditation on it?
Yeah.
And up for that?
Yeah.
Okay, so just making yourselves comfortable. Put your Zoom on mute. Sitting comfortably in your favorite meditation posture. Close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in to the lower stomach. Blowing the stomach up like a balloon into the heart center, one end of your heart. Just breathing this powerful life, love energy into your heart. Maximal inhale breath. You can draw the energy up the spine to the crown of your head, just pausing at the top of the inhale. So it's a maximal inhale breath. Now just check in and scan your mind. So you're applying the idea now to your inner world, your world of thoughts, emotions, perceived interior reality. And then just apply the idea. Say, I'm not the victim of the world I see or perceive. I'm not the victim of the world I see. Say that a couple of times. Then just blow it out. A sense of releasing, voluntary letting go of these thoughts, emotions that go with them. Voluntarily blow that all out with the breeze of my breath, going, gone. So expel all the lust remaining out. You can imagine, if it helps you, that it's like a dark cloud leaving you, or black smoke leaving your energy system, just expelling all thoughts of darkness. Just rest in this peace beyond the dream world, beyond the victimhood, beyond the story of you and how unfairly treated you've been by other people in life. Lies the simple truth. Just say the idea slowly again. I'm not a victim of the world I see or perceive. As you look within, just let whatever thoughts cross your mind. Not the victim of the world I see. Just say that to yourself slowly and deliberately a few times. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just let the stream of thoughts come and go. So things arise, you just watch them and you release. Sinking inwards to the peace, peace that passes all understanding. It's being called. So any thoughts come up, you just watch them, casually observe them, and hardly a sort of precision. They just come into the mind, they drift by. Just let it go. Any fetters, any attachments, just coming up, blocking your awareness of Allah's presence. Resting in this deep peace and stillness. So once and for all, you're just going to look at that lingering belief in victimhood. It's past pattern. Past doesn't really serve you at all. So just let it all go with the breeze of your breath. Breathe it in. Breathe in the light. And just blow it on its way like dark clouds leaving you. gone. Any negativity, any obstructions, we find any resistance coming up in the session. To those who did the positive feedback and higher purpose exercises, you notice that coming up. So just be willing to let it all go, all of those subtle attachments. Just blow it all out. Let it all go. Feel a sense of release. Exhaling out. Symbolizing your decision to cut the ego, cut it off. So you just blow it all out. Dark clouds leaving you. Say, I am not the victim of the world I perceive. So just let it all go one more time. Releasing all of this victimhood, any dark fetters, thoughts of not being worthy, not being good enough, deserving to be punished. And instead, breathe in your essence identity. Say to yourself, I am love. Put one hand on your heart, connect with your heart space. I am love. Just dropping into that spacious awareness. So now you can bring the light in, this love. So say, I am love, or I am perfect love, or abundant love. Breathe it into every pore, every cell, every muscle, your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. It's in this loving awareness. Just call it in and rest in it. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just surrender into this loving awareness. For a couple of minutes of deep silence. Coming back into awareness of the body and the breath and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind, so just notice thoughts, emotions, body sensations going on, particularly if it feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting in any way. And just let that all go. Exhale, count to 2, blowing it all out, letting it all go to the nothingness that it really is. Going, gone. Noticing body now, what you're feeling and touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, the smell in your nose. Notice that. Notice what you're hearing. Surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things from this very still, calm and surrendered state of mind. So just staying rooted in this loving awareness. And choose to stay connected to this for the rest of the afternoon and evening. So it is said, so it is done. From the count of 3, open your eyes and just look around for a few minutes. I'm going to do the exercise in its external phase. So just look around and say, I am not the victim of the world I see. As you look around, randomly looking at whatever the objects are. Slowly repeat the idea, I'm not the victim of the world I see, and close your eyes. Apply the same idea to your inner world. I'm not the victim of the world I see or perceive within. And recognize that it's doesn't matter whether it's your eyes are closed or open, the idea is equally true. So practice this frequently today. Yeshua recommends as often as you can remember. Try for every hour, even if it's just for a minute or so. I've given you instructions to do that in the Telegram and email message. There's also a breath break. You can listen to 3 minutes. Try and practice that again a few times until we meet again. This evening session this evening will start at 7 p.m. UK time. That's 8 p.m. French time, 9 p.m. SA time for the evening session, where we're going to read another section of the text, which is on time and eternity, it's called. So join us then if you'd like to take a dive into the text again. It's not too bad. Quite a lot of paragraphs, but they're quite short paragraphs. So hopefully see you later. That brings us to the end of today's session, this afternoon session. So thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Well done
Thank you. See you later.
to Yad and Jackie for getting your higher purpose. Very good. Very good.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so
Okay.
much for that. It's brilliant.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Great session. Bye.